I'm just going to ask maybe Helen, can you hear me? Just to make sure I can be heard online. Helen?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I just unmuted. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you could all rise for allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to have one trustee joining remote. She's traveling on business, Trustee Kritzmeyer. Could I get a motion to allow her to attend remotely once she joins?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Trustee O'Reilly, seconded by?
Second.
By Trustee Tanucci. I guess a voice vote would be fine. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. So we'll announce that she can join once she does. There you go. It's right on time. I'm glad I just started the meeting. So I'm going to turn it over to Dana to introduce two new employees, right? Yeah.
First I'll introduce one of our new staff members who couldn't make it tonight. Allison Donani is our part-time administrative assistant. She started last week. She brings 28 years of experience in retail management and other roles. She's served as a volunteer in the area in school districts and other organizations and nonprofits. She's very excited to be serving the village, and we're excited to have her. And then we also have our full-time employee serving as assistant to the village manager, and that is Nicole. You can stand up, Nicole. Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. Welcome.
Is our new assistant to the village manager. She's served as a community information officer for McHenry County State's Attorney most recently. She's also worked for the Glen Ellen and Hoffman Estates Police Departments as a records clerk. She's FOIA LEED certified, also a notary public. And in addition to working here, she's starting her master's in public administration in the fall. So this is a great experience to have these two experiences side by side, working the job, getting exposed to all those different things. As I mentioned to her, this is a perfect opportunity working in a village like this, where she's basically exposed to all types of all areas of government, public works, police, everything you can think of while she's learning about government in her MPA program. And both our new additions have already proven to be a great fit to the team. We've had a lot of laughs and learning about each other, and I'm just really excited about everything we're going to be able to accomplish as a team. So, welcome, Nicole.
Welcome.
You learned a lot here.
Okay, so we're going to move to the next. Welcome. So hope you enjoyed her. We're going to move to the homeowners associations. Is anyone here from Edgewood Pond? Amit Kamur, is it Pilviker? No? All right. Now it's time for public comment. Anyone have any public comment? Benjamin, you may want to give your address because I forget. It's Oakleaf, that's all I know.
Yeah, my name is Matthew, and I'm from 4369 Oakleaf Lane, in the Oakleaf Homeowners Association. And basically, I just have two questions. The first question is, I contacted Mr. McCarthy here to inquire about the excavator that's parked on the property and how that's going to relate to the village code, since it's not concealed. And my second question is, the village
They are going to be cited for that.
Oh, okay.
So they will be getting a notice for that.
Oh, okay. And to the village planner, has there been any update from the application for 4359?
I didn't have an update on that.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Any other public comment online or in the room? All right. Then moving right along, we have a public safety report. Keith, do you have something to deliver to us today?
Yeah, if you want.
If you want. You gave me a presentation.
Yeah.
Do you want me to bring it up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In the meantime, I met with the owner of the property of the Reserves, which is the old TF Industries, last week over concerns from the that extent, and so he's estimated about $2 million in damages to the building, over the time that he's owned the building that he's fixed. He does have several, over the years, he has had several security measures in place trying to prevent trespassing on the property, but there's a couple of different access points to the property, people are getting into it, and we're trying to help him mitigate those problems, and he's also, looking at investing in a new, high-tech security camera system, that'll be able to detect people on the property, and it's monitored, and they'll be able to contact the sheriff's office, when somebody comes on the property.
That property was heavily vandalized when you bought it. Does $2 million include that cleanup?
I'm not sure.
You could just walk through the door.
I've been in there. What he explained to me is when there's damage, he goes in and he does fix it, but the window's broken, they'll board it up, fix it, and assuming board it up, more than likely, but, you know, he said people are starting fires in the basement.
That was there previously.
It would be good to know that. Because if it's current, it's one thing. If it was old, that's another thing. Okay,
I'm not privy to that.
that's right.
I'd just like to support the sheriff's representatives, just so everybody clearly understands what's going on. Sorry, Mike, you got a turn?
No, you go ahead and, you've got the floor.
Everybody clearly understands what's going on. I want you to envision 2 o'clock in the morning, gunshots going off, with people walking through my backyard over to the reserve. Now, this stuff is happening currently. So this isn't stuff that's isolated, it's happened in the past. The communication that I sent to the sheriff's office, the village of Long Grove, Art, Landmark, and Jake Weiss, the owner of the property, outlining all of this. I hope you'll have time to read this. But this is an escalating thing. It's becoming more and more frequent and more brazen in that it's now happening during daylight hours. Just to let you know.
So
Yeah.
you're saying that the gunshots have continued and you're presently hearing them?
I've heard them once at 2 o'clock in the morning. They were recorded on my Ring camera. That recording is available for anybody who wants it. They just have to let me know. This was covered in my memos, both to Long Grove, to the sheriff's office, to Landmark, and property owner.
I guess what I'm asking is, there was happening frequently last summer, the gunshots. So you're saying it's continued?
It's a different situation.
But it backs up, to
I've only
to the-
recorded it once.
I see. And where are you located?
I'm located just to the west of the reserve property and just to the southeast of Landmark.
Isn't that Nottingham?
Yes, okay, off of Cuba Road. Yes, right.
And I'm not sure if
Sure.
it's coming from the other side of Cuba Road or if
Yes.
it's coming from that property.
Right.
It's hard to determine.
Right.
I did reach out to all the deputies and sent them an email with all the different access points to the property so that when they're responding there, they can check different locations to find
Yeah.
the people that are going in there, and gave them Jake, the owner's information, contact him and try to prosecute the individuals.
I think the easiest way is through Turner Woodland, Reed Turner Woodland. Fences are down.
Is that the Forest Reserve?
Well, Reed Turner's on
Yeah.
Old McHenry.
Or you can get through.
All the way to the
Yeah.
back of that, it backs up to the reserve property.
Yeah, there used to be a fence between the Forest Reserve property and the Park District property. That was taken down maybe 2 years ago. So now it's all open between Forest Reserve and Reed Turner, then you go around, you have nothing for reserve.
So there's 5 access points now.
Yeah,
It was on the list, it's in the email,
But you
it's in his
can
email,
walk there
yeah,
From
Yeah.
Reed Turner, in the right time of year.
yeah. All right, well, so, thank you for bringing that forward. Thank you for the sheriff for responding, and hopefully we can address the issue.
Well, I appreciate the efforts of the sheriff's department, the village of Long Grove. Everybody's certainly focused on this, doing what they can. I think we're all caught between a rock and a hard spot.
Understand. Thank you. All right, want to continue with your presentation?
Yeah, I'll try to fly through this as fast as I can. Try to put together some statistics from the last year to kind of present to you guys. So the sheriff's office has a contract with Long Grove to provide police services. Right now, the contract is for 2 deputies a day for 8.5 hours each for a shift. So that's 2 shifts for a total of 17 hours a day. I believe Long Grove is one of the longest standing contracts that the sheriff's office has. So those 2 deputies per shift or during the day, that doesn't just mean that there's 1 deputy in Long Grove. So if that deputy is busy on a call for service, then we still have another deputy from outside Long Grove that's working in the area that responds to the calls. Or if the deputy needs more assistance on a call in Long Grove, we're pulling deputies from other parts of the county to come help the deputy that's in Long Grove. Well, the contract we have with Long Grove says that we provide those 2 deputies. There's also costs or there's services that are not figured into the contract or the costs, such as like detectives, dispatchers, or auxiliary tactical response teams, stuff like that, that also assist and do follow-up investigations on cases that start in Long Grove. It's mutually amicable because if there was no police in Long Grove, it's still a default to the sheriff's office to cover the village without a police department. So the village gets additional services at the cost to the sheriff, and the sheriff's office is able to provide more resources to Long Grove. So this presentation is kind of 2 parts. The first part that's in green talks about statistics from last year, and then the second part is kind of an analysis of about 4 years of data that I was able to do. So breaking down our incidents that occurred in Long Grove in the future slides, this is kind of our index. So there's calls that are broken down into priority calls for service, which those are calls that are in progress that the police need to respond to immediately. And then there's non-priority calls for service, not a priority. We get there when we're not busy. Those are like incidents, like a burglary report that's not in progress, a theft report, stuff of that nature, damaged property, like it says up there. Then we have service incidents, so that's somebody calling in an animal complaint, a lower priority. And the last area that we look at is the deputy self-initiated activity. So the top 3 categories, the sheriff's office has no control over. That's stuff that residents are calling the sheriff's office for our assistance. And then the last part is kind of what deputies do when they're not responding to those calls for service. So last year, we handled just over 9,000 incidents in Long Grove. You can see the numbers there. So the priority calls for services, I just did a little math earlier, about 20% of the total calls. Non-priority is only 1%. So service incidents are 9%, and then self-initiated activity is the largest.
Of those 9,000, I mean, how many of them are handled by our dedicated staff, our dedicated sheriff staff, do you know, or?
We'll kind of do that later.
Okay, got it. Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is just showing that, the incidents that we don't have control over, it's people calling us for assistance. 67% of those are our priority calls that we're responding to. And the rest is broken down.
Okay, keep going.
This is the self-initiated, activities that we have here. A lot of extra patrols in the neighborhoods, house watches, that's the program if you go on vacation, call the sheriff's office, say, hey, we want you to come, check our house, we're gonna be gone for a month, or, a weekend, and we go check your house. investigations, traffic stops, civil paper service, that's us serving subpoenas for court, you're serving, orders of protection, notice to appears, that sort of thing. And the last column I haven't really talked about much with the village court, the COAST program. Anytime that there's a call that the sheriff's office handles, where there's some sort of mental health component, the deputies indicate that, and we send out our team of crisis outreach and support team, and they usually come out about 72 hours after an incident occurs, and we try to provide the person with the mental health resources that are available throughout the county. So it's a deputy. We've also brought in police departments, municipal partners, and they are teamed with a social worker that try to go to somebody's house and try to provide services. I'll say that for that program, just in general, we have some difficulty getting the person with the mental illness to go to help, but it's usually reaching out to family members and friends and neighbors that were the initial person that usually called us, trying to tell them about the services that are available, and they try to get the person to go to those follow-up appointments.
The school check. What is a school check?
That's going to a school, sitting in the parking lot, walking around the school, going inside.
You're not going picking up kids, taking them
No,
back to school?
no.
Okay.
No, we could if you want, though.
I don't know that it's a problem.
So in the next couple slides, this is where you see a breakdown of the calls by hour through the village. And the day shift and afternoon shift are the 8.5-hour shifts each for 17 hours that there's coverage in the village. So hopefully this helps your understanding of the times when we call.
There's a lot of service incidents early in the morning, is that what you're saying here? Is that what this is?
Yeah, so those spikes are because a gate was put on the lock at the soccer field,
I see.
and every morning and every night, the deputy has to go there, unlock the gate. So that's why.
Okay,
those
got it,
spikes,
got it,
7 o'clock and around 8, 9 o'clock at night.
got it, okay.
So that's showing the priority, non-priority, and service incidents.
Yep, the different color coding here.
Does this mean we don't have coverage at nighttime?
No, so by default, the sheriff's office covers Long Grove no matter what, because there's no police department. So after 11 o'clock at night, there's deputies that are assigned to the district that Long Grove is in. So that includes the full or unincorporated areas and some municipalities that don't have police departments. So the deputies still respond here for calls.
Still know they can. Wait. Right?
Yeah.
Do we want to make public, or do
no.
we want to keep it?
You just did anyways, but go ahead.
So that last box
It's
that's
in
in
the
purple
packet.
shows the midnight shift.
Right here, you mean, right here?
Yeah, so that shows the activity that occurs when there's not a deputy assigned specifically to Long Grove.
Do we ever have instances where our neighbors respond to our community?
To assist us, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But likewise,
We
go
we
to
do,
assist them.
yes, yeah.
it just shows all activity. It added the self-initiated activity in the light blue on the top. Fly right through that. Citations for the year. I don't remember the total number, but it looks like it was.
Is there a lot of bridge strikes or something in December?
No, that's the nighttime crew.
Oh, okay. No, it's been going up, so I just didn't, I was just, okay. No comment there, I'll keep going.
No. So I went through all of our data and kind of compiled a list of notable calls for service, because everybody's kind of interested in, like, how many burglaries were in Long Grove in the year. So last year, there, 12 burglaries in Long Grove, 20 damaged properties, domestic disturbances, 16, financial crimes, 19. And we could see shots fired last year. We responded to 10 calls, 5 suicidal people, 6 suspicious searches. I think it's more relevant in the later slide, showing the comparison our 4-year comparison. This is a breakdown by year of all of the incidents. So what's important in future totals, because I don't want to go officially on the record and saying crime was down, but there's a lot of categories last year where crime was down. And I had to go through and review the data again to make sure that I wasn't missing something, because some categories were very low than they had been in the previous years. But by looking at the total numbers, I could see that they're all pretty close to being the same. So where the calls that we have no say over, those 3 categories, priority, non-priority, and service calls, well, those go down, and CIPUS is still kind of staying the same, and our annual totals are the same. I figured out that our data was pretty accurate.
Okay. Keep going.
Yeah. So priority calls for service, last year, you can see, for the most part, it's below the average of the 4 years, pretty significantly in a couple areas by time period.
Why do you think that is?
I was thinking about, we saw a lot of spikes in some of the other categories in the future slides in 2020, and I'm not sure if COVID had something to do with that, and now we're seeing a decline. But I'd be interested to see what other areas, at the county or region, what their statistics look like. So, makes me happy.
Yes, no, it's good to,
Non-priority is almost the same.
got it.
The mean of the averages, the dotted red lines, so we're pretty well below that in a lot of areas. And it just shows the taper off of activity and the calls that we get on midnight shifts in Long Grove.
Going?
Yes. Are above the mean again, and that's just.
Oh, opening the gate or something?
Opening and closing that gate.
Got it. All right.
All 3 of the categories combined,
Okay.
so it still shows a drop off of calls for service on midnight shift. That adds in the activity,
Kind of looks the same, huh?
all the stuff that you can look at on Friday night.
All right. Anything?
No.
Just keep going.
Citations, those citations kind of up over the last couple of years at the end of the year. And I'm hoping somebody asks me about the spike in tickets there in 2020, and that can just be attributed probably to a person, a deputy that was assigned to the village that wrote a lot of citations.
Actually, I think we did the checker. We did the checker, yeah.
All right.
From those calls for service categories that I had, with the incidents over the years, I had to break it down into incidents that were over 100 and under 100, because otherwise the graph would be skewed. But this is showing that our property damage accidents are down, financial crimes are down, everything in this slide is down from previous years.
Hey Keith, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So on the citations in Long Grove, is that the Long Grove detail plus the Lake County Sheriff, or is that just the Long Grove detail?
So this is part of our system that's antiquated and outdated, and it's manual entry from a handwritten citation to a computer system. It was all tickets that I could find that were written in the village of Long Grove. I can't differentiate between the person assigned to Long Grove. So we do construction zone traffic enforcement as a special detail for deputies, and I know that some of those were heavy in the village too.
Thanks for the clarification. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a notable call for service.
That's the list of.
Okay,
that
got
I
it.
had, with the annual, percentages,
Got it.
or the annual number of calls. But if we skip past this, this is what, shows it more accurately. So accidents in general, except for fatality accidents, are down. I can't read that, so I've got a color version. So there was one fatality traffic crash last year, if my memory's correct, it was on 53. But, so in 2022, there was no fatal traffic crashes, so that's why we had a 100% increase. But other, like, I like the fact that all traffic crashes are down. Almost everything is down except for, damage to property. Calls, we had an 18% increase. 43% increase in domestic. Orders of protection, a 67% increase last year. So, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the lower number of domestic disturbances. But like I said, the domestic disturbances is down 57%. Other things, financial crime down 70%. There's a huge spike of that in 2020.
COVID, yep, yeah. Everyone was, trying to hack your credit and everything else, so unemployment claims, et cetera.
So
I got it. I got one of those. I reported it, so.
And it's, the other part of that too is a lot of banks used to require police reports to start a fraud investigation. Now, a lot of them are just taking your word for it and not requiring that.
Right.
So that could be
I commend you for what you've created. It's really awesome how much information is there, suggesting that you may need a hobby.
Oh, gee. That was a backhanded compliment, I think.
This is a lot of Excel spreadsheets and reviewing it that way, and our, Trustee Borowski knows our IT infrastructure is outdated, and in April, we're getting a new suite of products that's gonna be awesome, and it's just gonna be a few clicks of buttons to get this information, rather than reviewing Excel spreadsheets.
Well, good to see it. We would not know that there's good news in it, had we not seen the report. And it wasn't a backhand.
All right, thank you. If there's no more questions, thank you. We'll keep ourselves, moving here. Ryan, yeah, you had something you wanted to share with us about a movie. Yeah.
Customer call with the water issue. I just want to give a quick update on the Downtown Association. For two things. One, the movie that was brought to your attention with Mario Lopez, want to give you an update on that, as well as kind of close out where we're at with the Downtown Association events, as well as we had about the SSA. As close out to the downtown, we had our best Christmas report in the last 12 years. So we doubled the amount of volume activity, not just through sales, through carriage rides, just overall foot traffic in the town by over 100%. So it's exciting to see that obviously the changes are working. So we're seeing positive growth, we're seeing comments. We're no longer getting the what's happened to Long Grove. We're now getting the, wow, we see things changing. So it's a positive for what's happening in the downtown, with what you guys have done, what we're doing collectively as a partnership. So I just wanted to let you guys know that where we're at as a downtown. As far as the movie aspect, we did have Mario Lopez's production crew out last week. Originally, they were going to shoot a portion of the movie here in Long Grove, as well as in the North Shore and in Libertyville. After coming out last week, they'd like to film the whole movie in Long Grove. The one element to the town that we requested as behalf of the downtown is it's shot in a small town environment. We've asked as a downtown that it be called Long Grove in the movie for this Christmas movie, and they've accepted that, and they will call it the Village at Long Grove. So every time this plays, it'll always be Long Grove, Illinois.
Cool.
The shoot will be from March 25th through April 12th, so it'll be the week of spring break, so there's gonna be elements, and the application will be coming to us and then to you guys here shortly. I just wanted to give you that, kind of a high level. They're gonna shoot the week of spring break, there'll be some elements in the, school here, which the school has given us, authorization for that, and then there'll be different elements of, as far as the shots. And then total production cast out that will be in town will be 40. We've got partnered with the Lincoln Charter Marriott, so we're trying to use elements for tourism, so that as we work on tourism grants, we can say, how is it benefiting the town? We're utilizing our partners around us, to create businesses, so that when we fill out grants, it gives us the ability to get higher up there on the list to say, here's our proven experience and what we're doing for tracking it. So it's exciting. I will have more details for you, so it looks like, this will be a nice production. I've got upon approvals from everyone to accept it in the downtown, but it looks like it's gonna be a great spot for Long Grove in the future.
Where are they gonna order their meals from?
They're gonna try to coordinate everything downtown.
Oh,
And then also the week that, they'll be shooting, Mario Lopez will be doing Access Hollywood live from town.
Oh, wow.
oh, wow.
So we're working on spots for that. So again, it's gonna be a lot of publicity. It's gonna be a great spike to Long Grove, because generally, we're just coming out of Mother's Day, and we're at that slow period, just before the summer and spring comes. So it'll be a great push, because he wants people in town when they do like Access Hollywood, so it'll be a live piece, come to Long Grove. So the goal there is to, obviously, when they're coming to Long Grove, come and shop and dine while they're also in town. So, it'll be fun to see, and, again, when that happens, invite will be out for you guys to come and see this occur. We'd love to see you come out and just be part of the town and the excitement that occurs over that 14 days of filming, and then the 1 week of Access Hollywood.
Yeah, bring a friend.
It will.
Are we gonna be Christmas?
It is gonna be a Christmas movie. We are gonna be requesting to keep the holiday decorations up. We're gonna pull turn off all the lights. We're gonna make some signs that will go up around the town to say, holiday decorations are remaining up because a movie will be shot here with these dates. Just so you guys and us don't get the calls of, why are they still up? We will be.
Or we have Mundelein,
Yeah.
code enforcement coming after you.
We'll be coordinating, and I've been in contact with Art on this, is to kind of walk you through the process. We'll be coordinating the shot areas that will need lights, the areas that do not need lights, we will remove those off the areas. And then they'll come out and also decorate that 2 weeks prior to get ready for it. So we will look like a Christmas town in March, April. So it's exciting.
You're gonna keep the snow on the streets too?
We're trying to keep the snow. They're gonna do some drone shots ahead of time so that they can get the,
Oh, they can mix them together.
amazing what they do with that. We're excited. I'll have more details for you. Just wanted to give you that high level so that you're aware of what's coming down the pipeline.
I have
Thank-
a question for you.
Yeah,
In the packet under permits and.
yeah.
What are the two new events that have been added? I think, memory serves me, one is season, cultural season.
No, so
What is it?
that's always been the same permit that's applied. When we have to apply for our temporary liquor license from the state of Illinois, we do it under two categories. Seasons of,
Okay,
that's a formality that we had to do with the state,
I see.
which then you guys can go write the letter and say, I approve these, and then it covers us for our days of our event.
I thought y'all added something.
Now, these are the only two. We will look, at the end of, next year, we'll be looking for additional activities in the town as we continue to thrive.
All right, thanks, Ryan, thanks for
I'll
that
just say
update.
I'm happy to hear we're no longer Aspen Grove, we're Long Grove. Anybody who saw the movie a couple years ago knows what I mean.
All right, so we'll keep ourselves moving here. We have a consent agenda, and on that agenda, there's several items. It's ratifying the December 2023 bill warrant, which was conditionally approved on January 3rd. Approval of the December 2023 Treasury Report. Approval of the regular rescheduled board meeting minutes from January 3rd, subject to non-substantive revisions. Approval of the executive session meeting minutes from the same night, same thing. And then we have approval of the 2024 HDL GBA special events, subject to the certificate of insurance and the sheriff sign-off, which the village staff will coordinate and make sure all that stuff's in order. Any questions, or does somebody want to make a motion?
That includes the new, I think we talked about it last time, coordinating with the sheriff.
The sheriff sign-off, yeah, that's what that is, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, moved by trustee O'Reilly,
Second.
seconded by trustee O'Connor. Roll call, please.
Trustee O'Reilly.
Aye.
Trustee O'Connor. Trustee Borowski.
But I did have some question on the treasurer's report.
Okay. But keep going, yep.
Trustee Chris not here yet?
Not here yet.
Trustee Tanucci.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. What's the
It
question?
was actually on the bill warrant, there was a bill for like rough shed or something like that. There was like $1,200 or $1,400 for rough shed, and one of the expenditures, and I didn't know. It's like rough shed, the plastic sheds. and I don't know why it's on.
Probably the company.
Pages are out there.
No, what pages it at, I don't know.
No, we'll find it and let you know.
Okay, I appreciate that, it just sounded odd to me.
Would you be okay if it wasn't a rough shed?
I did go, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Oh, tough shed, yeah.
Tough shed, there you go.
Isn't that the name of the company, though?
Tough Shed Incorporated. Kind of a play on words,
It's,
when you say that.
Page 3 of 13.
Do you have the detail behind it on what it is?
It looks like it's a bond refund. Says total for Fund 71, builder's refund, bond fund, 200, sorry. Oh, wait a minute, that's a lot of money for.
So it would have been the contractor repaying them, their bond for what they had deposited.
Who's they?
The contractor who did the work. So they have to deposit, they have to do the bond beforehand.
Okay.
For any work, and then when it's done, if everything is as is, if it's all approved and everything, the inspection, then it gets returned to them.
You're looking at the detail in the report, though, right? Because it's
Right.
there, on the,
Okay.
yeah, it's there.
Yeah, I'm looking
Okay.
at page
That's fine.
3.
We can move on.
in-
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate
Yeah.
that.
So it's their money basically coming back to
I
them.
understand, thank you.
Okay, motion carried. The village planners report, Amanda, anything?
No, I don't have anything new, so there were no, meetings that took place, last meeting, and just one aside from the meetings that I had on with, O'Reilly and Trustee Tanucci, with understanding that they want to give their report on that meeting.
Yep, they will, yeah. So, perfect.
Just a kudo that Amanda was present when we had our meeting, workshop meeting about the Ruth Barn, and she put together some materials for us on that were very helpful, so.
Okay, then, we'll keep us moving. Village engineers report.
Okay, the village engineers report is in the board package, just a couple things to.
So we just look at it there, then?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, done. No.
No, I did want to say a couple things. Village Hall expansion, bids were opened, yesterday on that. I don't want to steal a little thunder, but, recommendation will be coming to the next board meeting. There were 8 bids, and, Bear Construction was the apparent low bidder at, $1.673 million as a base bid, so.
Which is close to what was estimated,
Exactly. Yep.
either at or below.
Yep, so Wold is, evaluating those a little bit more, and there'll be a more thorough, recommendation at the next board meeting. The Lake Michigan Water Connection, I spoke with Congresswoman Schakowsky's office, late last week. The, federal budget was not passed, last week as, they, were informed, but a stopgap bill was passed to avoid a government shutdown. Good news is the Lake Michigan Water Connection is still in the budget, but it hasn't been passed yet. And then the other thing, just to report, not on the engineer's report here, the IDOT is going to be studying the intersection of Schaefer and Route 53 for safety, and going to have that report done by the end of March. This was at the, request of, Representative Brady's office.
Yeah, driven by the, HOA president of Country Club Estates, yes, which is good.
End of report.
Questions?
Are we discussing the pathway thing under your report?
It's a specific agenda item for it.
Okay, for Jeff.
Village engineer report, and then it's the Gaywald Hamilton
It's next.
next.
Oh, it's on my, on mine it says,
Does it? Well,
whatever.
did they change it? I don't know.
Doesn't make any
No, it's just coming up a different order, Google Drive, send it in the agenda.
difference.
Well, then, if there's no questions for Jeff, I guess carry on to the next agenda item, which, has been introduced by trustee O'Connor, which is discussion and consideration of a resolution approving, nope, that's not it. It's authorized Gaywald Hamilton Associates to conduct a pathway study.
Great. I presume everyone has read this, if anybody has any questions, so I don't lengthen the meeting any longer.
I do have a question.
Yes,
What's the goal?
Jeff and I talked about that this afternoon.
Thank you. And what's the answer to that?
Well, there are several.
Please.
The first one, as it says here, is to look at the existing infrastructure. Some of the paths that we have are not walkable, they're not accessible, they need maintenance, they need repair, number one. And we think it's about time, because the last time it was done was, I think, in 2008, where when Jim was still here, we talked about, here's what we have, and usually the problem whenever we have our pathway meeting, they show us the map, and it's like, now we've got these pathways, but they don't go anywhere, we need to connect them, okay? So, while that is a good idea, a great idea, it is better used. The question is, are they useful? And if not, why not? If not, how can we improve that? And if we're only accommodating a small number of people, then why don't we do something where it'll accommodate more? Like I noticed that the sidewalk we put in out here on Robert Parker Coffin, there's people there all the time. Not only during festivals, but just shoppers, dog walkers, absolutely, you know, and a lot of them, I see a lot of them crossing to get to Sunset. So it's like, and they're not bikers, they're walkers. And that was something else we talked about with, you know, what are they good for? Is it human beings, is it wheelchairs, is it strollers? What's the best use of this particular pathway? Should it be extended? Should it be connected? This is what it's got. And if we connect it, is it going to get better use for you? And we talked about Northern Monroe. You know, some of the really difficult areas where it would be fabulous to have a pathway, for example, is north of 22 on Kruger, to get anybody up to Gilmer. It'd be even nicer if we had a bridge across Gilmer to get the children to that side of the road where the schools are. You know, why not let the kids that are fourth grade and up bicycle, walk, moms meet them, you know, that kind of thing. Cut down on carbon emissions, all that.
Can I just interrupt you really quickly? Trustee Chris Myers joined the meeting. Ann, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm on a bus, so I'm on mute.
Okay, thank you for joining.
Can you hear me?
You've been yes, we can, and you've been admitted to the meeting already,
Thank you
as we
so
started.
much.
So, thank you for joining. Okay, keep going.
Appreciate. Sorry, I'm late. Bye-bye.
You're good. Yep.
The
Well, don't leave.
The goal is to assess what we have and see where we should take this. You know, one of the things that pops into my head each time I think about the pathways is the underpass at 83, which is invaluable for runners and some bicyclists, some graffiti artists. I think we should hire them to put something really nice up there, but whatever. But you know, to assess those kinds of things and say the well is not bottomless, So where do we put our priorities and what they're gonna cost us? And then we have been putting, I believe, $50,000 a year into the budget for pathways. So it's, what do we do with these monies? And can we get grant sharing on them? So that's the goal, to answer those questions and know, okay, so knowing this, where could we go from here? Does that make sense?
Yes, very good, thank you, I appreciate that, very well said. To further follow up, on a higher level, is the goal to have a pedestrian pathway? Is the goal to evaluate whether or not we get a golf cart pathways, or is the goal to evaluate equestrian pathways, or what is there, or horse and buggy, or whatever the heck we want to run downtown, right? I guess I'm trying to understand at a high level, what's the intention? Is the goal to connect every subdivision? Is that what we're asking? But that's my question, what's the request here? What's the ask to Gaywald? I understand your point about the maintenance of the current road, pathways. I mean, I've got one right by me that's, Ravenna pathway that's in bad shape, I get that. But what's the goal at the end of the day? Is it to connect all the all the HOAs, all the subdivisions, all the neighborhoods together to get to where? To get to downtown, to get to school, to get to where?
Well, if they're all connected, you could go to Sunset, you could go to downtown, you could go to the Forest Preserve. That would be ideal. Monetarily speaking, it's probably unrealistic to expect that. It wouldn't be a bad goal. You know, we talked today about, you know, my favorite topic, which is City of Bridges. You know, to get, we have senior citizens living in this community, as we well know. If you're a new perspective, you're isolated. There is nothing around there. How do they get anywhere on foot or in?
I think it's all valid, but that's my question. Are we looking at, it's all valid, I agree with everything you're saying, but are we trying to connect a pathway that is wheelchair accessible? Are we trying to connect something that is golf cart path accessible? I mean, what's the goal of what we're trying to get Gaywald to do? Because if we say, hey, make it pedestrian, that takes on one format. If we say we want it, our vision for the future of Long Grove is each neighborhood is connected by a small pathway system. What is that pathway system? Is it golf carts? Does it include charging stations? I don't know, right?
Probably not golf carts, but we did talk about, like, on the lakefront, where we have walking and biking.
Sorry to interrupt you, Rita. We didn't think about golf carts. Why not? Because you think it's not feasible, or because that's not what we want? What do we want? What do the residents want?
We'll address that. I don't know, and I would love to take a survey, and as you know, I talk about this at least twice a year.
Sure.
For $100, we have it all set up where we can take surveys when we haven't used it once.
So my ask to Gaywald is, what is our instruction, or what's our instruction to Gaywald? What do we want them to look at doing?
Well, it's a twofold endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is to identify, and discuss, and analyze, should it be connected for less carbon emissions, for the fact that nationwide, and I don't think we're any different, kids are asking, can't I bike or walk from this point to this point? Why do I have to get in a car?
I agree, but Chris Borowski possibly in my health condition cannot walk the path to downtown Long Grove. So I would really like to take a golf cart. Can I do that, or is that intended, or is that planned? And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Sure.
You know, it's a long way. I don't know, or Bill's house, how's Bill gonna walk to downtown, right?
Yep.
Could maybe,
Hey.
under scope, maybe Chris and
So-
Rita, under scope of services, you could add modes, identify modes for the paths or something like that.
Yeah.
Trustee Chris Meyer has a comment. Ian, go ahead, just take the floor really quick. Go ahead.
That's fine. My own view is that at least as a very minimum goal would be, can we connect across, north, south, and east, west across the entire village? I would say to be able to connect all of our communities would be a lovely goal for the plan it would obviously have priorities in terms of highest priority, most feasible. I think you raised an interesting question. I would have never thought about golf carts. To me, it would be more pedestrian, wheelchair, stroller, bicycle. Maybe golf cart should be something that we should evaluate, but at least what's the plan? If we think of Long Grove as an open community, open space, how might we connect this without needing electric vehicle or without needing motorized vehicles, if you will? And then how do we have a plan that then is ready for either the village to kick in monies because we say this is a priority, we want to make sure we have pedestrian access north, south, east, west, or there are grants available or other organizations that say, yes, this is also a priority for us. So to me, it's how do we connect at least the entire village, north, south, east, west, and then maybe it is have a plan for all of the communities, but there will be a priority because there will be top priorities and lower priorities. Thank you.
No, I think it's interesting, and then the function, is it to move to downtown Chicago, good guess. Do we want to connect downtown Long Grove, is that the key point?
Why not?
I think we should, of course, but how about the school kids? How about the Stevenson crowd? Do we put a parking lot in on the western, or the eastern end of town for all the golf carts to go to so that the kids can walk the rest of the way to school? Because they're all parking in that Prairie View train station now and then walking anyway, right?
Well, Stevenson bought a $650,000 house to tear it down to create more parking 2 years ago. So I don't feel sorry for the students.
Oh, I understand that, but if we created something that makes more sense, then
Sure,
all the
I get
vehicles
it.
piled in there, or at least give our residents the option of saying, hey, look, if we could put this here, does it make sense? I mean, what if one Stevenson bus picked up from our parking lot instead of from all the subdivisions? I don't know, just ideas, right?
That's super good input, and we talked about that this afternoon. My observation over the years has been that the idea is not to take the school bus if you are grade school, middle school, or high school, because the traffic, as we all know, picks up at 2:30, between 2:30 and 4 o'clock. We get our lunch rush hour, our midday rush hour, because moms are picking up the kids, or the kids are driving from school because they have a job, because they have athletics, kids have dental appointments, there's all kinds of reasons. And it adds to the carbon, it adds to people getting fat and not walking places where they're driving places, and so.
I am fat, I can't walk that far, so.
It's multi-pronged. We talked about getting grants, not only for, a lot of them are available for lowering carbon for obvious reasons. And others are for safety, for, seniors, it just depends on the niche. And we talked about, for example, a bridge over 83 and or Old 53, where on top of it, we grew trees. So you can get grants from matching grants.
Can I ask 3 questions? And I want to make sure we hear from other folks too. So one is, if it ever happens, is the Route 53 corridor considered part of this? In other words, if that is going to be a green space, would that be somehow tied into your
It
study?
is a green,
It is right now.
it is a green space. Yes.
So,
Other park districts got our million this year.
That's a great point.
so that was one of the items. The other one was in regards to, do we necessarily have to study the pathway systems in the HOAs that are there today? Because there's money in there for that. What's the purpose of that? Hold that thought.
But the HOAs are private.
Correct, but there's.
Yours is private.
Yeah, but there's to request permission to go in and assess them. So I didn't understand hold that thought for a second.
And I have a question about the same exact thing.
So hold that thought for a second, and, right, and then number 3 has to do with, is there a benefit of having this in place so that if funding becomes available, we can go? So.
Absolutely.
So anyways, those are my other 2 questions, so I don't know which ones you want to answer first, but go for it.
So yeah, the easy one is, if you got a plan and established priorities and, ranking of them and things like that, totally helps with, grant applications. That's one of the things we were searching for and needed to, include in the ITEP application for the old McHenry Road path. So it was identified as a first priority, you know, the existing plan has first priority, second priority, third priority, and that's kind of a, you know, been lost since 2008, what exactly that means. So having an updated plan, certainly. The private paths on the HOAs, so that came into play because the existing map shows all of those. So, and I know there's been discussion about, you know, the private, you know, can the public use them, things like that. So that's, a sticky wicket type subject there. So is that something that should be mapped on this? You know, you know, presumably this map will be published on the website, you know, and identified that, hey, this is private, or shown on there that, hey, this is a path that you can use. So that's something to be very careful about.
What's there today, right? So the question is, but there's dollars in there to study those paths. That's what I was surprised at. If they're there, why do you have the money to study them? That was my only point, I
There
guess.
are two I can't find.
There's two you can't find?
There are two paths on that map that I can't find.
Maybe they're not there anymore. They're grown over.
There you go.
Or overgrown?
There you
Yeah,
go. But if it's on paper, it was there at one point.
right.
So, you know, and one of them is off of Schaefer. I told Jeff I was surprised that the people haven't called the police on me, because I keep going into that cul-de-sac. And I get out of the car, and I'm like, okay, it should be between this and this. And I you know, I get back in the car, I check the map, I go out, you know, it's like, oh, God.
When you get out with your weed whacker and lawnmower, they might, so.
There were three pieces in Martin Estates that were up for sale by the state earlier this year. They were 10-foot strips that go through Martin for like 70, 80 feet. And, you know, I said, great, hey, should we buy these? Maybe we could connect them, you know? It's just weird when it comes up.
Yeah.
I'm questioning why we're spending money to look at paths that are on private property.
I didn't
Subdivisions
plan
that are
to.
entirely private roads,
Yeah.
and private property.
I didn't plan, we're not looking at HOAs, are we?
So we included that because that was on the existing plan.
Yeah. But,
And the existing plan, you've got a bunch of orange lines on there that say other. So it was a task to identify what is actually in the village. You know, gravel paths, concrete paths, asphalt paths, private paths, and which ones are in easements, which ones are public.
You need to identify those because, you know, I think about Ravenna and the pathway from both east and west. I mean, from Diamond Lake Road, you've got a very clear path all the way to 83, right through their subdivision. And that's using mostly they're roads. I don't know if they're public or private up there, but I think you need to map those out and understand them, because at the end of the day, you don't have a chance unless you get the HOAs involved and allow access to get onto their streets. We're never gonna do it.
So I live in between two neighborhoods. We have proactively excluded the public from their private roads, even pedestrians.
but those are pathways. I understand, they're not pathways.
We don't need to do anything with those two subdivisions.
Well, if they don't want it, they don't want it.
Well, you can't,
There may be others
you
as
can't
well.
exclude them because they exclude you.
Well, but.
Well, what I'm saying
is
There
they can't,
is-
because
there is-
They don't want people in there that don't live there.
Yeah, I mean, if the HOA is so determined not to
Well, then
have neighbors
you
come
still
through.
show them as being part of your village.
They would have a different color.
And, I don't know, you think of some unique word saying, don't go in there,
Well,
but,
put it
but
down.
as far as studying it, you have to include
I
it.
mean, if an HOA wants to be isolated, they could be excluded, right?
Well,
Right.
evidently,
Right.
You know, some of the toughest,
And not
some of
Sharon's
the,
Landing either.
right,
Yeah.
some of the toughest roads, for safety reasons, could use paths. We talked about Cuba a few years ago, it's all private property up to the edge of the road.
Yeah.
You know, look at Kruger, from 22 up to Gilmer. Whether it's private property or not, there's just not enough room along there, you know, so you know, you can't create an attractive nuisance. And it's frustrating because to connect 22 in Gilmer for school kids, you know, that'd be fabulous. People that go on that.
So a couple of people have been silent. Trustee O'Reilly, any thoughts?
I have been silent.
Yes,
One word that immediately draws my concern, and that is the word connect. You're going to connect, that means you have something to connect it to, which means that you will do southern, like Long Grove, before you do northern Long Grove. Long Grove doesn't have anything to do with connecting. And so I would try to.
bless you.
I would try to keep the word connect out of the usage of this study. One possibility I hope that we will look at is the possibility of doing a personal property and the village to put a path through the back of their yard, or there could be circumstances where a path would be unobtrusive to a homeowner. I could have one in my backyard, and I wouldn't care, because of the way it is. It's so far back, I wouldn't know who was there. And so I hope that we'll look at possibilities like that. And then I would just warn us to be a little hesitant. This gravy train we've been living in the last 3 years it can't continue. It can't continue. We cannot continue spending money as if it grows on trees. No matter what kind of tree you grow, you're not going to grow money. And it's going to bottom out very soon. So we have to start looking at things like this that we pay for. We don't have somebody else pay for it. We pay for it. And if it's worthy of it, we can pay for it. If it's not, we can't. But overall, I think keeping the thought of knowing, first of all, what we have, and Chris's point is very, very good. I love the idea of different vehicles that can transport people. I've had people in my neighborhood who have had golf carts, and they're just wonderful things to have. So I'm heartily in favor of what you're doing, but I think it's very important that whoever's going to serve on this, check in. Don't go off for 6 months studying it, and then come back and say, and everybody says, oh, hell no. So I don't want to see that. But this is a good idea to find out what we've got and why we want something else.
So is there support to do this?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we're all for this.
Okay, so, and then it's just maybe defining a little bit better the goal, and what the end result is?
And I think that'll come out of, the first thing, the meeting and identifying priorities and goals.
Okay,
And that'd be a great time to come back and report back to the board.
so that's a yes. That's definitely a yes, a yes. Trustee Kritzmeyer, are you a yes?
I'm definitely a yes.
So it's not to be voted on tonight, but then it would be to, right?
Right, so we could.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve it? Okay, a move by trustee O'Connor, second by trustee Borowski. Roll call, please.
Trustee O'Connor. Trustee Borowski. Trustee Kritzmeyer.
Aye.
Trustee O'Reilly.
Aye.
Trustee Tanucci.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Now we have,
Oh, yeah, motorcycles, no, I'm kidding.
well, the electric bikes are probably what you'll be using, Chris. The kind with 3 wheels.
You know you can't
Okay, so discussion and consideration of resolution approving continued service for public relations and marketing communications and services with Wisdom Bridge Marketing. I know Jack is here today. Do you want to set this up? Is there anything you want to say or do, or?
No, pretty much what I said in the manager's report, that they had a 6 months trial period, and Jack's asking for the rest of this year to continue, so that we have a professional communications consultant on board, and that will be reviewed then with the new manager coming on board with almost a full year basis to look at for how to proceed in the future. And I think if Jack's here to answer any questions and maybe give a better overview than I did.
I'm happy to. We've been around since August and grateful for the assignment. I think we've made some substantive progress, given that we've had, some transition and staff and what have you, but we've got a lot of good plans. We've established some nice relationships, not only downtown with the merchants, but the libraries and the sheriff's office and others have been very gracious. So we're hoping to continue our work with you for the remainder of 2024.
I have a request.
Please.
Is there any way we can get two-way discussion / conversations going with our residents?
Yes. The short answer is yes. We tried a brief study early on, that I think we got about 30 responses to using the website portal. There's a tool that Natalie helped us set up a survey on about communications, and I would love it. I wish we could do more extensive studies on what people want to read and hear about, and I'm all for it if we have the tools and the commitment to do it. I understand there is some software or something that the village has. I'm not really...
Yeah, we pay $100 a year for subscription. The only problem is POCO does it by zip code.
Okay.
We are Killdeer, Lake Zurich, and Long Grove,
Yes.
same zip code.
Yes.
And it isn't that I don't like hearing from those people, I just would like to know who's in the village and who isn't, so that we take care of our residents.
Yeah, I think there's ways we could probably manually, go through that data to try to filter it, if that's the case, but I'm all for learning about that software. And then there's other alternatives that we could look at as well, if that isn't a tool. I don't know anything about it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I would love to have input.
It would help us immensely because, one of the challenges, and I love a challenge, but creating content regularly, we'd love to have more to talk about, more to write about. I think that would be great. What do people want to hear?
I challenge you.
I'm up for the challenge.
So the agreement expires at the end of the month, right? So in order to keep the service going, we need to do something.
So you're giving them another year?
Well, they came back with Art came back, or Dana came back with a year proposal with the right to cancel, 30-day notice, so.
Are you getting what you need from us?
Yeah, I mean, we've been, the village has been great and the partners have been great. We're just trying to get our arms around everything and learn more. And I think with the transition, it's been kind of tough for Dana. Dana's been more than gracious as he's learning on the fly along with us, and now we have a couple of new folks who've joined this week, so we're all kind of banding together just to try to figure out what the content would be for the rest of the year, and what's going to be meaningful to publish, not only on social, but in the print newsletter and the monthly e-news. And Trustee Kritzmeyer has been very gracious. She's helped me with some thoughts and some ideas that she's weighed in on. And my goal would be to learn more from each of you about your committee responsibilities and what you're, trying to accomplish. Even this thing tonight, I learned just about this pathway thing. I didn't really know was a thing, so we could definitely communicate about that.
We should take a look.
I've got walking shoes.
To clarify, trustee Chris Myers weighed in specifically on the budget process
Yes.
items as the finance trustee.
And she is a big proponent, as am I, of research as well, you know, so we've had some back and forth about the importance of research in communication. It's vital, you know. We've been kind of flying visuals so far, we don't have instruments yet, is what we've been doing.
I've got a couple questions. So I saw the project background and the scope kind of identified. What kind of results do we have from the already current engagement? You know, I mean, some of the things that are written in the narrative are fine, I understand that, but when we start talking about things like, Instagram, and, you know, built an Instagram channel that currently has 162 followers. Is that good?
Well, today,
How do we know that?
as of today, we're at 185, so
Okay.
we've got little linear, notches of growth, and one of the missions that we're on is to try to connect with more partners. Sheriff's Office is a great example. Chris Cobelli's been a really, really great partner. And the more people see our content on other partners' channels, we are going to organically grow those channels. Facebook, we're up, I think, another 50, 60 followers in the last month. We've got people following us now on LinkedIn that have never been there before. So I think to answer your question, the more we're out there, and the more we have connection with the community residents and the partners, the libraries, the parks, et cetera, the more eyes will be on the village's material, and you'll see those numbers grow organically. We haven't spent a dime to promote anything on Instagram or Facebook, it's all organic. So I think we're trying to be good stewards of the dollars and the time, but I think you'll see growth. I'm pretty happy with what we're seeing on Instagram and Facebook so far. And we have
Okay, I'm not on Instagram and I refuse to go on Facebook, so, I don't wanna speak to those two in particular. I am a LinkedIn fan, but I notice you guys don't post very much on LinkedIn at all, almost never. When there's nothing there, I follow Long Grove on LinkedIn, it's like zero, and,
LinkedIn is more of a business to
I'm aware.
business, yeah, so when we, like today, I put the new staff members out there that we've hired, which would be a news item that would be noteworthy to other villages and other municipal partners. When we were hiring for the position, we put those job opportunities out there, but, I mean, we could certainly use the channel more. What I'm struggling with is more to talk about, more news from the village, more new initiatives, events, things like that. It would be great.
well, let me ask you, let me drill down deeper. So
Sure.
then, so on LinkedIn, we've got many, many businesses in Long Grove, right? We've got the big guy, the big automotive guy up north, right? Butler and all that. Have you guys reached out to those organizations and tried to invoke them to join the network and follow Long Grove at all? Have you done any outreach to those particular businesses? Or have you data mined LinkedIn to see who's got URLs that are registered in Long Grove or IP addresses that are registered in Long Grove? What have you done towards trying to grow that on your guys' initiative?
That's a very good point, and I'm trying to, prioritize the different tasks we have at hand, but that's an excellent point. I mean, we could definitely do more drill down and try to grow that LinkedIn, following, but we've been given more priority to the mainstream LinkedIn, Facebook, Nextdoor, those channels to try to connect more with the residents than we are with the businesses and other agencies.
Put LinkedIn out to the side, so can you cite examples of what you've done to actually go out and try to grow the Facebook participation or whichever social media participation you like? I mean, what have you done to reach out to this board to say, hey, you guys, Borowski, get your ass on Facebook?
Well,
Right?
Yeah, no.
I mean, you should, right? You should have done that. That would have been first thing, right? Like, hey,
When I do my client reports I present those to Dana, I've added little subtle reminders, like we need everybody to participate, help us with their sphere of influence.
Okay.
when I came aboard and got the credentials, I was astounded at how few entities the village follows on Facebook. So I have gone through, you know, line by line by line and said, why aren't we following the tavern? Why aren't we following the pizza place?
Right.
We're now following them, and what you see is you get traction because they'll like one of our posts, or they will share a post, and all of a sudden you see the numbers start to go north just because Joni's Pizza has a great following on Facebook. So it takes manual, tedious, you know, line by line work to go through it while we're juggling, you know, other projects. But that is definitely on our radar to grow the followers.
So does this next investment get us there, or is this just more of the same, I guess?
No, we're digging in and we're seeing this thing grow, you know, every month. And, you know, I'm gonna show you more results for sure. You will be able to hold me to it.
Do we have our residents' emails? And if we do, are we allowed to share them or not?
We have opt-ins.
We have constant contact, right,
Yeah.
so.
We've got 1,863 opt-in constant contacts where they actually volunteered their email.
Out of 4,200 people, 42.
About 8,000?
About 8,000, so you've got about 20%,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. And what you see us doing on social media, every Monday, I've programmed the cloud software, so we're promoting, sign up for the Constant Contact newsletter, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and there's a link back to those channels. And we're seeing people respond to it. Now, to your point, you know, this Monday, we've got like 3 new people to follow the YouTube channel. It's not spectacular, but the way I look at it, it's 3 more than we had last week, and it cost us, you know, 2 minutes of my time to set that up on the cloud software. The other alternative is to build, you know, spend into the budget, which most people don't wanna hear about, but you can expand your audience through purchased ads, through more presence. It's geo-specific, you can set it on a map, but dollars have to be spent. You know, and that's a whole nother discussion. You know.
Oh, yeah, I understand, of course, but without your expertise coming to us saying, if we did A, we get B, we'll never know that, we're just throwing darts, right? We're not even throwing darts, we're not even looking at it.
Yep.
And yet I'm not seeing that from you guys coming back going, hey, I think we should do a partnership promotion with the downtown group this week, or.
Well, we're being,
Never mind, you're making
we're being
fun of me.
honest, I was told at the very beginning to proceed with caution and to take care of some of the basics and the blocking and tackling and all that, so that's what we've been doing the 3 yards and a cloud of dust since August.
Robert Steiner.
Well, what's that on the LinkedIn, segment? Why can't we twice a week or whatever the number is, the magic number, why can't we highlight our businesses? And not just the ones with brick and mortar, but we started this when the Economic Development Commission was working. We had a program called How'd You Do It?
Yep.
And people that are in this town who have very successful businesses that aren't necessarily in the town, and they aren't necessarily brick and mortar.
Mhm.
How'd you do it?
Well,
You know?
I would love that opportunity if I had the green light to do it. I'd like to start incorporating more video, more audio, and Dana and I were just talking about the fact that we've got 3 distinct shopping districts in this community. Why aren't we talking about all 3? And I'm foreign to the territory, I'm trying to learn. But to me, I think we've got huge opportunities to form partnerships, and I'll go you one better. I'd like to start talking about economic development. But that's, you know, then that's like kind of the next milestone or down the road, but to me, there's tons of opportunity to talk about along the road.
I typically wouldn't chime in on this, but, you know, to what Jack's saying, my understanding when he was hired in direction was not to focus on those businesses, with what he's saying, was the direction that, as the employee that I was given as well with it, at that time, was to not focus specifically on, you know, local businesses with that or anything. So if that's the direction that is given, then he can focus more on that. If
No,
that's
we're still bad about that,
Can-
especially.
Can I ask a favor though? So, first off, if we're gonna renew it, we'll need at least a majority vote to renew it. But secondly, if we are gonna renew the contract, can, maybe you all reach out directly to Jack and provide some of the ideas and thoughts that you have?
Sure.
Outside of this meeting too? Because we'll be here for about an hour, I guarantee it, on this topic. And would that be acceptable to you all?
We could even have a little workshop.
And you could have a workshop if you wanted, but even before the workshop, to reach out directly to Jack and say, here's some thoughts I have for communications.
I would love it. I would definitely, Chris and I have communicated about Swalco. I need to learn more about that. I need to learn more about the 53 corridor. I need your knowledge so I can build the content and put it out there. But we've had the governor on a lot of things, and we've been really focused on the newsletters and trying to get all the mechanics right. You know, and that's been a pretty tall order as well.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Okay, moved by trustee O'Connor, seconded by
Second.
trustee Tanucci.
Trustee O'Connor. Trustee Tanucci.
Aye.
Trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Trustee Chris Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee O'Reilly.
Abstain.
All right, motion carried. Thank you, Jack. All right, so, the next item on the agenda is a presentation by Chairperson, Jean Sylvester of the Long Grove Architectural Commission on the historic preservation opportunities. So do you want me to bring up your presentation?
Yes, please.
Thank you. And I see Archana, you're there too, and thanks for joining.
And Commissioner Ecologist is also on
Oh, there you go, Laura's on there too. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Laura, for joining. All right, let me share. I think that's the,
Could you go back and speak, please?
I sure can.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Jean Sylvester, I'm the chair of the Architectural Commission. And as hopefully many of you know, on March 23rd, 1999, the village enabled, by enabling ordinance, established the Historic Preservation Commission, the members of which are the members of the Architectural Commission. And in establishing the Historic Preservation.
Can everyone hear Jean online? By chance? Yes.
I can mostly hear.
Not that
Mostly
well.
hear, okay. Not that well?
Should pull up a chair.
Do you want to?
Sorry about that.
No, you won't hear.
Doesn't go very far. Thank you.
We'll move a microphone near you and hopefully that helps. Got it.
There we go. Thank you.
We have Ryan Messner to the rescue.
See if it works. Let's test
See
it.
if it works on,
Oh, yeah, that works. It's not green.
disconnected when it fell, maybe.
See a few things, Gene, and then we can see if.
If it's not green, it's not working.
Before either. Hasn't been green all year.
Be careful.
Yeah.
I'm so worried about, yeah, flip it over there. It's fine.
I'm not gonna flip her, but,
Thank you.
All right, just go ahead and talk and make sure they can hear you, so.
Okay, so I'm talking about the Historic Preservation Commission enabling ordinance, March of 1999. Can everyone hear me?
Much better.
Can you hear me? Much better, okay.
Much better, okay. So in establishing the Historic Preservation Commission, the village found that development and shifts in population threatened the destruction of structures that have historic and aesthetic value and interest. It also found that Long Grove contains structures and areas that embody a sense of time and place unique to Long Grove, that exemplify cultural, social, economic, political, and architectural history of Long Grove, and also that the protection of these resources
is necessary for the promotion and maintenance of the village's development. And then the ordinance goes on to list duties of the Preservation Commission. The first is to conduct a survey to identify historically and architecturally significant properties, to investigate and recommend to the board procedures to protect properties or structures having special historic or architectural value. I'm summarizing a lot of these. To advise property owners on physical and financial aspects of preservation and procedures for inclusion on the state and National Register of Historic Places. Educate citizens of the village concerning historic and architectural heritage by publishing maps, newsletters, brochures, and pamphlets, and by holding programs and seminars. To accept and administer grants, and money. To testify before boards and commissions on matters affecting historically and architecturally significant properties. And also to review the zoning ordinance and recommend changes appropriate for the protection and continued use of historically significant properties. And finally, again, to conduct an ongoing survey and research in the village to identify neighborhoods, areas, sites, structures that have historic, community, architectural, or aesthetic importance, and to compile and maintain that data. Next slide, please. So that's why I'm here. I'm here as the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission as well, to do this and to explain what historic preservation is and what it might bring to the business owners, the village, and the residents of Long Grove. So not to get too deep into it, my reason for showing you this slide is that historic preservation as codified and as formalized throughout the United States is relatively recent. When Penn Station in New York was demolished in 1966, there was a national outcry, and President Johnson convened a committee, and Congress passed the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. It created permanent institutions, and it clearly defined legal process for preservation at federal and state levels. Next slide. Kind of smushed.
I can make it a little, there you go.
So the results of the Preservation Act in the past, what is it, 60 years, is that historic structures that are defined as any building that is over 50 years or older, meaning anything built before 1974 now, historic structures that would be affected by federal projects or work that's federally funded needed to be documented to standards issued by the National Park Service. It requires states to have their own historic preservation office. In Illinois, that is the Illinois SHPO, and required states to complete an inventory of important sites. That was completed in Illinois in 1974. Created the President's Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, also created the National Register of Historic Places, which is an official list of individual buildings, et cetera, that are important because of their historic or architectural value. And also, finally, federal projects or work that uses federal funding became subject to what's called Section 106 review, which is a determination whether proposed work would harm a site, and then if so, also provides a way to avoid or minimize that harm. At the state level, there is a state review also that goes through SHPO. Next slide, please. More results is that preservation became formalized and professionalized. Beginning in the late 60s, there was a growing awareness of past and community identity. Historic districts were created all over the United States. The most notable around, or in this area, not notable for any particular reason other than it's sort of famous, is the Oak Park Historic District, the Frank Lloyd Wright Historic District. All of those were created late 60s, early 70s as a result of this. It also helped foster heritage tourism. Colonial Williamsburg, all of those places really enjoyed recognition and increased tourism, which is a huge economic draw for local governments. The distinctive character of old architecture and historic districts became a powerful draw for many Americans. Also, many buildings and landscapes have been saved instead of demolished. And the quality of life, and this is something that's a little more intangible, but it is something that is studied and documented, is that the quality of life in cities and towns has been improved by a greater appreciation of aesthetics, identity, and a legacy with the past. Next slide, please. This is very complicated, and I know that there's way too many words in this PowerPoint, but basically, historic preservation identifies, preserves, and protects and encourages utilization and rehabilitation of historic properties. And it safeguards them, fosters civic pride, fosters education, but it's also used as a it's used as a planning tool with development. It recognizes and respects the special value of historic properties, but it also works to make those properties economically viable. Creates and continues the preparation of surveys and studies of historic and architectural resources, and maintains and updates registers. And then it also, and very importantly, encourages public participation in identifying and preserving these resources. The more the public is engaged, the better everyone is. Also, very important that people don't feel like preservation is imposed on people, that it is something that when you bring people in and educate them, they understand that it is a powerful tool for them rather than restrictive. Next slide, please. So these are some incentives for preservation that are available to people in Illinois. They are administered by the Illinois State Historic Preservation Office. For income-producing properties, I call it the CFI building, but I know you guys call it something else. Yeah, this is a perfect example of a rehabilitation tax credit, 20% tax credit for rehabilitating the property with lots of requirements, but basically it's an enormous economic savings for that property owner. And there is a attendant state rehabilitation income tax credit for income producing properties. For residences, there is a property tax assessment freeze program. For a historic property, you can, and realtors really need to know this, and hopefully part of my duty to have seminars, I'm going to be putting on a program for realtors so that they understand this. Property owners can freeze their assessed value for 12 years if they have a rehabilitation of their building with certain criteria, but it is an enormous savings, particularly when the tax assessment rates are increased so dramatically. There's other financial incentives, there's preservation easements, and then a very interesting thing is that a number of municipalities in the area, particularly along the North Shore, have local incentives that the municipalities do to encourage businesses and homeowners to preserve their properties. So this is called a Certified Local Government Matching Grant Program that is in Illinois. It's a resource for participating local governments to develop preservation programs and projects. Administered by Chabot. There are 84 CLGs in Illinois, including Barrington, Crystal Lake, Evanston, Galena, Geneva, Glenview, Highland Park, Lake Forest, Oak Park, Park Ridge, and Libertyville just qualified as the 84th CLG in 2022. The CLG program assists in identifying, evaluating, protecting historic properties with surveys, planning, technical assistance, acquisition, development, and carrying out other historic preservation activities. It allows local governments to apply for state and federal preservation grants and to participate in historic preservation programs. And it also allows property owners to apply for a federal tax credit. So, for example, the downtown business district in Illinois, long ago was a CLG, the business district owners in the historic downtown would be able to apply for a tax credit against the cost of rehabilitating their building. And yes, when you do apply for a voluntary program like this, there are guidelines that you have to use to rehabilitate your property, and the state works with you on ensuring that your rehabilitation project meets those guidelines. This is just the process for a CLG, which sounds complicated, but there's an entire department of CLG officers at SHPO that help villages do this. Clearly, with the local municipalities that participate, I think it is a worthy program, and something that Longo should consider. Slide, please. So, this is, these are shots, obviously, of the downtown
You depict the bridge.
business
Board's
district.
missing out of it, didn't you?
Oh, sorry. I didn't, well, do some work.
Oh, geez.
Needs preservation.
Sorry.
So this is what people think of as historic Long Grove. They think of these buildings in the downtown businesses.
And board's missing out of the bridge, yes.
And, what
We call it shared building.
Okay.
what everyone needs to understand is that, there is a theory that the State Historic Preservation Office has been, kind of throwing out, about this. Because in the 1990s, I believe, when this HPC, enabling ordinance was enacted, residents maybe, or the village board, I don't know, of Long Grove applied, and we're talking to people, down at SHPO, to have some buildings listed on the National Register, and maybe make a district, I don't know. But they were told that it was too early. And the reason why it was too early was these buildings, some of them are from the 1880s, 1890s, some of them. So why wouldn't they be eligible for listing? If a building only has to be 50 years old to be eligible for listing on the National Register, why wouldn't they? Because there's a very important factor when determining eligibility, and that is integrity. And a lot of these buildings, the commercial buildings, lack or don't have very much integrity in terms of complying with the Secretary of Interior standards. They've been moved. That's a huge asterisk. Character-defining features have either been removed or changed. That's another asterisk. But the fact that they said that it was too early means that later it might be eligible. And so the theory, and this was identified, so I asked the State Historic Preservation Office for a courtesy review of the village hall expansion. And they issued one, and I hope you all received it, because I asked that you. And so the early 19th century buildings, which, is a rural sort of country village, the integrity issues with these buildings can be satisfied because when this historic downtown district was created, which was in the 60s and 70s, it was sort of an early form of historic branding, the historic village that was created. That is now eligible. And, I think what you want to call the founding fathers, or the people who were responsible for creating this village did was, it was really an attempt to, I think, deal with and kind of combat increasing suburbanization. They created this sort of idyllic New England type village with moving some buildings, and other communities followed and tried to do it, but none of them did it as successfully as Long Grove. This was an absolutely dynamic and fantastic and successful project in the 1970s. Forest Park tried to copy it, Geneva, Galena, all these places did it, and they did not do it as successfully. And Libertyville is in the process of doing it right now with their CLG, with the survey that they did. So it's time. Next slide, please. So what we do have here is just, honestly, it's an absolutely phenomenal set of what are now historic buildings. These are mid-century resources. The building on the right, designed by Leroy Binkley, was featured in a book that a woman that I work with wrote, won a National Book Award from Docomomo on modernism in the middle, modern buildings. That building, both of these buildings, absolute masterpieces of modern architecture. No question they would be eligible for listing. This slide, please. These buildings, 100%. They're timely, there's architectural and historic integrity, and absolutely eligible for listing. Next slide, please. Very interesting property. The building on the left was Dennis Blair's home. Dennis Blair was a very important modernist architect. He studied under Frank Lloyd Wright. He designed Stevenson High School. I'm personally doing some research on him, hoping to publish an article about him. The house on the right the Shell House, and Dennis Blair said that that is the finest piece of work he ever designed in his life. Well, the house up on the left, Dennis Blair's own home before he moved to Barrington, is on Prairie Wind Road. Prairie Wind Road has 6 or 8 residences. That is a National Register district waiting to happen. There are other mid-century houses on Cuba, on Old McHenry. I'm doing sort of a little unofficial survey myself.
This looks like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? Waiting for the car to go out the back.
It's an absolutely stunning house. Country Club Estates, Martin Woods, Martin Lakes, they're all there. They are all timely. They're very important architecturally, and they would all qualify. I think that might be my last slide.
You have one more.
Right across the street, Kildare Country School, built in 1951, designed by Bertram Weber, a very important architect. So the 19th century really isn't a period of significance for here. I mean, there are 19th century homes here that would be eligible for these tax incentives and for listing, no question. But there's also a tremendous wealth of sort of like undocumented and unrecognized mid-century stuff here that very few people know about, that's it's absolutely dynamite. So I was asked what it is that I'm asking for. Well, the Historic Preservation Commission has an obligation to conduct a survey to identify these properties. All of the incentive programs that I listed begin with a survey by a qualified consultant. I cannot do it because I believe it would be a conflict of interest, but I have conducted these surveys in Highland Park. I've done one in Lake Bluff. I'm doing one right now in Winnetka along Sheridan Road, and I've done them in Chicago. But I don't think I would be able to do it here, but there are consultants who do. We need to find out what we have, what is here, and what is significant, and the integrity of these structures, and that would start everything. We need a preservation ordinance. We have the commission. No ordinance was ever drafted or enacted. For an example, for these residential owners to apply for a tax freeze, they have to be a local landmark or they have to be listed on the National Register. For an individual person, it's a lot easier to become a local landmark than it is to get registered on the National Register. We have no such ordinance that would allow someone to voluntarily landmark their property. Nothing would be forced, nothing would be required, but if they wanted to, they could nominate it, we could review it, we could accept it, it would be a landmark under the village code, and then they would be able to apply for these tax freezes, which, the savings are extraordinary to do that. Same goes with the National Register. And by the way, being listed on the National Register has absolutely no restrictions. You can demolish your building even though it's listed on the National Register. There's nothing restrictive about it. It's a list. And it's only a list. But it's a list that opens the doors to economic incentives, which is why I think it's really important that we do that. So we start with a survey, and then next step would be a preservation ordinance. I think the village should apply for a CLG. I would love landmark designations voluntarily. And finally, I would like our commission to be able to give out preservation awards, landmark awards, but would just really as more of a carrot instead of a stick. There are no sticks. I am not proposing any sticks here whatsoever. It would just recognize the historic and the architectural importance of the built environment that we enjoy here in what we have been calling ourselves Historic Long Grove for the last 60-some years. Any questions?
Well, thanks for the presentation. I'm sure that the trustees have some initial questions, maybe. First off, was there a proposal already given to us for this study? From the
Yes,
Lakota,
and it's gonna come
group?
up, during the budget process. The survey is one of the items that's gonna be brought in front of you, I think, the next meeting as one of the wish list items the board members have proposed for the budget.
So the I've been proposing this for quite some time, and was told that we should probably start out slowly, do it incrementally, just go with the downtown business district, which would be great, but I personally would advocate extending it and doing the whole village. And you can do it, it's not that, first of all, it's not a very big area, but how I would do it is, I did a survey in Lake Bluff, and we divided the survey up into 3 sections, sort of. One was an intensive survey, where you literally stand in front of the house or building 15, 20 minutes. You document everything about it, including its integrity. Then there's sort of a reconnaissance survey. And then there's a windshield survey, which is you don't even get out of the car. You just sort of like drive past, take a quick picture, and write down a couple of things. And you get a varying level of information, but that's appropriate for the time period when the buildings were built. So, and we know we can tell that. We know, I mean, obviously the downtown business district would warrant an intensive survey. But the newer subdivisions, like the absolute newest subdivision, and I don't know what that would be, would only warrant an intensive windshield survey, because none of those houses are eligible for listing anyway until they're 50 years old. So you can do that quickly. And so the more time spent would be spent on those buildings that are historically significant or architecturally significant. And you can really lay out exactly, which ones you want to do. Like, I don't know when Royal Melbourne was built, but I'm assuming that that's after 1974. So, you could just go and be done. But those houses on Prairie Wind, those deserve intensive surveys. They were most likely all in the 60s. So that's how I would split that up. So I would respectfully ask that you consider opening the survey up instead of just the downtown business district, to include the entire village.
Okay, so we
Question,
did this
Dean?
sur-
I have a question. What would be your request? What do you think that would cost? Who would do it? And what would the timing and scope be in terms of what you would put on the wish list we should consider for budget discussions?
So I proposed 2 consultants to the previous village manager. There are others that are also qualified and would do an excellent job. I know that he interviewed 2 and chose this called the Lakota Group, and they do a lot of surveys. And just so that everybody understands, I have worked with them for surveys in Highland Park through my day job. I really have absolutely no idea about the cost. I don't even know what the cost was that they offered for just the downtown business district. But again, the $8,500 for the downtown business district. Okay, but for the areas that would only be windshield surveys, that would not add a lot of expense, because it goes very, very quickly. What you have, and I suppose this would be a conversation for another meeting, but the results of the survey are something that often municipalities put on their website, where they're interactive. You can search Dennis Blair, and any house that was designed by Dennis Blair could pop up. You could search 1960 to 1966, all those houses that were constructed then, assuming that it can be documented, would pop up. You can click on the individual address, and the results of the survey will pop up. I would invite you all to take a look at it. The Village of Lake Bluff, for example, has an amazingly interactive park, another one. So there are software companies that work with surveys and turn surveys into data or websites. So that's what you would get with that. And then you would get a written report that would document the history of the village with respect to the built environment. A little summary of history, but mostly, the architectural and historic significance of the built environment in the village. If you become a CLG later, you can apply for a grant to update the survey later, when these more buildings become eligible. So I do have names of consultants. I'm sorry, I really have absolutely no idea how much they would charge, but if it was $8,500 for the downtown district, I guess you can take it from there. the residences.
Perhaps double that for the full thing?
I would only be guessing. I'm sorry, I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, thank you.
Would there be staff involved in doing this project?
Well, first of all, yes, the village manager, I believe, would be, the Historic Preservation Commission would also be involved, but it's really more advanced for.
Would our engineer be involved?
I don't think so, unless you really want to be.
I don't think so, but.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No. The Historical Society would hopefully be involved, and they have amazing archives, and they have archivists there who are able to access, information about these buildings, and that would be enormously helpful for the surveyors. But as far as village staff goes, I think it would be just sort of the manager helping collect the information, providing sort of like maps of development areas. When was Roy?
The consultant would do that, not the manager.
Well, the manager would provide the information to the consultant.
No, the consultant would have to gather it.
Well, because if you give them a list of when the homes were built, you'd know instantly what's not eligible.
Margarita.
Neighborhoods in or out.
You can find that on the assessor's office
Assessor's office,
too,
sorry.
but presumably the village, I don't know that the village has permits. I've asked about that, and it sounds like they are inaccessible, but something like that, if the village is able to provide access to permits, that would be amazing.
I'm just worried about the fact that we're overwhelmed right now with what we need to be doing, and to put something else on their plate, might not be prudent. And so I think this is fabulous, what you're suggesting. I think it's something we not only have to do, we have to do it soon. But we also have to be considerate of the time and the amount of work that I see in there.
Well, the consultant would do the majority of the work.
And I understand that, but when you start saying we need to find the maps, I'm thinking, oh.
Well, they would produce a survey with absolutely, they could produce a survey with no information from the village. They can find that.
Well, to do it the right way, to do the
The more information they have, the more thorough the research will be, but they can find maps, online, they can find them at the Discovery Museum, they can find information, tax rolls, assessor's office, all of that. I did the survey in Lake Bluff, there were no permits. So we had no dates of construction, we estimated dates of construction. We used real estate listings. They can work around it. So I really don't think that, certainly the village board would have not much to do with it. The only thing Vic would have to do would be write a historic preservation ordinance. And otherwise, there are wonderful preservation ordinances out there that all are based on the same thing. And the SHPO also works with the village to make sure that the ordinance is, the ordinance would provide the access to these financial incentives. In other words, that it would accomplish what it was meant to do.
All right, so we're starting to run out of time, so it's getting to be 9 o'clock. I know Ryan, I don't know if there's any other trustees' comments. I know Ryan, you raised your hand.
So, the village, as the property owners of downtown were communicating about this topic, we feel at this point, this is probably not the right time for downtown that's going through redevelopment. We're going through positive growth. We think this will actually hamper the growth and the restrictions that will happen on us in the downtown. We think that while there's some buildings that are obviously of age period that are historic in nature, having the whole downtown right now would probably put us backwards instead of forward. But as we're getting new property owners in town, we're getting the process of rebuild and redesign. I think it's gonna create a lot of nuisance, and that's the consensus of the property owners. We've had some meetings on this saying that this potentially will harm us, and seeing that us get to the finish line.
I wish I had been invited to those meetings, because I think I could have explained it. Right now, all I'm asking for is a survey. And a survey, a person standing in front of those buildings is not gonna hamper anything.
It's not that, it's at what point do you now need to take it to, you know, we don't look at 1916 as a historic downtown. We don't see that as historic. We see 1800s as historic. So to maintain a reconstruction project, to maintain a 1960 facade, in our opinion, is gonna cause harm. There's a lot of added cost to say we're doing this to deem it historic in nature when it's 1960s. 1960s, and I mean, most of us would be deemed historic in this room if we would use a 1960 day.
Really?
But you're not, when you do redevelopment of a building, you're not
Well-
back to the 1800s.
But
Yeah.
I just think there's,
I don't think we're gonna settle this tonight, though. I don't think so at all. I think that this was tonight was to introduce the topic, and there's I have lots of questions, right? And I thank you for being here and staying.
I just want to speak as far as
Yeah.
downtown.
Yeah, but I think that what we should probably do is, let's set this down, because I think there's lots of.
I mean, I think that the proposal was to get, as part of the budget process, proposals for the survey, and then you can talk about it in terms of that concrete matter. The survey is the first step in a series of steps that would ultimately lead to anything, if you choose to do so.
Right.
So, I think that the appropriate thing is to get the proposals, that then be fleshed out in the budget process, and then we go from there.
Yeah, and then we know what we're dealing with and all the other different ways it can go, right? Because even if it's not for the downtown and it's done, as you were saying, just for some of the homeowners, we do whatever the designation is, they could take advantage of it. So this could go a lot of different ways.
Right.
And
A
so-
homeowner has already contacted me, asking me
Yeah.
whether or not his house could qualify for the tax freeze.
Right.
This might be neat for a,
Workshop?
yeah.
Thought you were gonna say that. So, but I think thank you for the presentation. I thought this was great and a lot of great information. And I think this is a good stopping point. It's going on 9 o'clock and we have a few other things to do. It's only got a barn being moved, I think I heard. Gonna talk about that too as well, so, but, Jean, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions anytime about this. I would recommend that you consider the other municipalities surrounding us that take advantage of these. And I have to question why a village that calls itself historic Long Grove does not take advantage of any of these programs. It really is time.
You opened our eyes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna keep ourselves moving. And I see you there still under my report. I don't know if you wanna give a readout on the meeting we had regarding the SSA, with the Downtown Business Association. Are you in a position to do that, or, she's still on the bus? I don't know. Well, we had a meeting, and I think, actually, you'll get the notes that, John Kopecki put out there, right? It didn't end up being a public meeting, because it was just Ann and I, and Ryan was there, and John Kopecki was there, and then, Dave was there, right? He does finances, right? Not Dave Gaten.
We have an executive committee at the meeting.
Yeah, executive committee meeting. So, go ahead, Andy, you wanna say something?
I'm not on the bus any longer, but I thought it was a really good meeting. I thought it was a meeting that came with it was underpinned by a spirit of partnership, and that was the first thing that was really important. I think that also we talked about things in terms of like, what does the village need in terms of saying, look, from an SSA, what are our responsibilities as fiduciaries, and what makes sense in terms of partnership to advance economic development and tourism for downtown. So we talked through, and the HDLGBA said their commitment is they're going to come back and talk with their board about what they think that, and we're going to reconvene again, that was the whole point, was to sort of have a good conversation, surface issues, take no action, but continue the conversation. Would you agree, Bill?
I would agree. Yep, nope, absolutely. I think there's gonna be some deliverables they're gonna come back with and say, hey, here's what we think we can do, and then that will further the conversation, so. Absolutely. So that's the end of my report, and somebody dropped, so I'll move on. Trustee Borowski, do you have a report?
No, sir.
Let's see, Trustee Kritzmeyer, do you have a report?
Sorry, no, getting off mute. No, I asked Art and he complied because I'm not there in person. Next meeting, we're gonna talk about the different wish list items and make sure that we have some consensus on moving forward to pull through the draft budget. And I want to say thank you very much to the village staff for the progress we're making on village budget. It's earlier and more robust than in past, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Trustee O'Connor,
I already gave my.
gave your report. Trustee O'Reilly?
No.
Trustee Tanucci?
What we're gonna talk about?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay, well, I can talk about that, and Bob, you can, pitch in if the need arises.
I was there too.
Pardon?
I was there too.
Okay, yeah. So, we met as a working group with representatives from village staff, village board, historical society, HDLGBA, and the Lions Club. We went through 3 options for moving the roof barn and decided as a group that, the most desirable option was to disassemble, move, and reassemble the roof barn. With the help of both Jeff and Amanda, there was a list of tasks that needed to be completed in order to meet each of the 3 options, including this one I just said. During the meeting, we assigned names to each of these options, as well as made a couple of decisions. Like, for example, when it gets over to the property of the historical society, we got a permanent foundation, and that the septic system would be maintained, there would be no connection to a sewer system. There was also discussion of a public fundraising campaign, because we've currently have about a $40,000 shortfall between what it would cost to move the barn over there and what is currently in the pot. And I left the meeting feeling really good about it. I felt like, I even said to my wife when we got home, we made more progress in 2 hours in this meeting than we made in 3 months up to this point. And I was feeling really good about it until 4 days later, when we got an email from the Historical Society that basically backed out of everything they agreed to, including the fundraiser, and put us right back where we were before.
Let me just add to Ken's evaluation of the meeting. I think everyone who was there left with a head of steam, encouragement that we were working together. It was so clear. We were working together, we had a goal, we had steps to get there, and then as Ken said, we got the letter. And I don't know where we go from here.
Jane, I see you're here. I don't know if you want to.
Well, I think one of the biggest blocks for us is the whole idea of the project manager switching roles. And that's not something that we feel qualifies, it's not something that we feel is even appropriate. I let you know, I reached out to John Marshall, who is a friend. He owns his own construction company. He has been involved in projects like this, moving buildings, and he was shocked. He says, this is not normal construction process to switch project managers in the middle of a project. I mean, with his history of construction and stuff, he says it never happens unless someone dies or gets sick or something like that. It's not normal practice. There's too many issues that can come up that we're still not sure that we're part of the process, the beginning process of the decision-making. And if you're going to be making the decisions at the front end, we're going to inherit those decisions. We were told at that meeting that the moment it leaves this property, it's our project. And there was even discussion, whose project is it, as well as moving over there. And that's not normal best practice in construction. And that's the biggest
obstacle for us right now, that we don't feel it's our job. And John has, as the expert, has confirmed that. So I don't know how to move forward. I mean, we're looking for you to take care of it. We're thinking that if you're gonna project manage it, it probably would be whoever does the moving. But if they project manage it until it gets onto the foundation, and then it becomes our problem.
I think let me just speak from my perspective, when, this opportunity came up, because we need to move the barn in order to add on to the village hall. So the thought was, we'll just move it over there. But then there was this idea or notion that, oh, wow, we have to spend money to move it over there. Maybe that money could go towards moving it, you know, to the Historic Society property in the downtown Long Grove. But I don't think that, if you look at the amount of money we've spent so far, it's a lot on this project. I don't think anyone thought that we would own it from cradle to grave. We were just trying to help it along to see, hey, can it go there? Is there a spot for it? Could it happen? At some point in time, you know, whether it's now or later, it doesn't have to, we can temporarily put it over there until there's time to do more planning. But we have to move the barn in order to add on to the village hall. Whether, you know, this discussion couldn't happen a year ago or whatever, we're here where we're at right now, and we were saying, you know, back a number of months ago, if we could just make it do it all at once by, not having to spend the money twice, that would be best. But if we can't, we may just have to put it over there until everything's sorted, because I don't know that we can fully run this project, you know, with the resources we have at the village without the Historic Society, you know, either hiring somebody or doing some things to move it along, because there's gonna be certain things required that I don't know that we should be fully owning the whole thing. And I don't wanna speak for the whole board, but I'm just telling you that's where I think we're at. And how, is there a way to get over that quickly? I don't know. We're moving very fast, because April 1st is coming quickly. So, I'll stop there.
It's a shame, it's actually, I mean, I have to say that it's just a shame that when we found out about the addition going over the footprint of the barn a year ago, that we weren't part of this whole process. In the bridge, the online, the paper bridge, it said that you had been meeting all summer in the fall, and we weren't part of those meetings. We attended our first meeting in regards to the move in January. So this, you know, if we had known in advance about this, more so and been involved in the process, and poor Bobby knows that I have been dogging, trying to be a part of this process, and was continuously told that it's not time for you to be at the table. And we should have been. And I understand I'm anxious now too, when we get the bids back, are you gonna even be able to hire someone in that time to move the barn off the property by April 1st? I mean, unfortunately, we should have been part of the process a long time ago. We weren't. And so now it's like this rush, and I understand your rush, but we're fine.
So Jane, but the thing is that this idea of moving it there is a relatively new idea, and maybe
If we had been part of the process earlier, you would have found out.
But it still does not have to be, if right now is not the time to do it, it can still be a longer term plan, and then how we position the barn temporarily or something can be.
You're putting it, I saw the new projection where it's gonna go, and it's gonna go so far back there that we will never be able to.
But here's the thing, so here's what I'm thinking, if the long-term goal is to get it over there, and we know that, it can temporarily be put somewhere until all the stuff can be done to do it right.
But still, in best practice, John said, everybody knows John here. John, to me, he's a respected business person. He has been heavily involved in the village. He's been a trustee, he's on the architectural commission, and he was just appalled when I was talking to him.
John can come and talk to me, I'd be fine to have a conversation with him. Okay, come and talk to me, but again, somewhere along, there's gonna be, a little more organization's gonna have to be done. We can't run the whole thing, because that's the way I feel right now, is that if I'm watching what's going on, there's a lot of, how much money did we spend so far? We got the report today. $15,000 already, and we're just getting started. And, go ahead, I'm sorry, because I want this to happen, I just don't know it's gonna happen the way ideally we would like it to happen, right, so.
Seeing as I was the one who really got this going with a temper tantrum, I feel so sad that we are where we are. Did you get the architect? Did you get the 3 architects that were on your list?
Yes, and I'm still working on that.
Okay, so we don't have those. So, we have organized this into, this needs to be done first, so you do that. This is second, you do that. And you couldn't do 3 until you did 1, and you couldn't do 4 until you did 1. And all of that got organized that day. And then it fell apart, because people weren't, he was doing what he needed to do, she was doing what she needed to do, but I don't know that the rest of the projects got going the way they should. And so there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda, but we didn't. So now we have to move the barn. And we need to get moving quickly to get it situated somewhere. Maybe you could take it home for a while and park it in your yard or something. Maybe a neighbor would take it. But we need to get it up there, get it safe, get it stored, and wait for the day that we can get everything in order to do the move.
Well, the other thing that could happen too, again, if the ideal thing was to get it all moved over and put on a new foundation immediately, there may not be enough time to do all that. So the question is, the last idea was, hey, take it apart, document it all, and bring it over there, a puzzle, right? And then put it together later. Now, I don't know how long.
Barns on TV all the time.
Yeah, so I don't know how long, but is that one of the steps that, if there's enough, commitment or the belief of the Historic Society that you'll be able to get whatever the resources are to get it back installed? The thing could be moved over there, and no one's here saying they're giving up helping. It's just, we can't own the whole project, right? I don't know that the project manager is an interesting term. I think there's more than, it's owning the whole project. Jeff, you're looking at me, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
No, pretty good.
Those are some of the things that could still happen, or we could set it over there. The long-term vision of moving the schoolhouse and everything else, we want to move the outhouse too, that's not gonna happen, but moving it all over there, I'm 100% on board with, and it's just, I don't know that we're running out of time, that's the issue right now. And regardless of could we, should have, I guess we could have, but it still doesn't change anything. We're at where we're at right now, we'd have to move really quickly. There's still some things we can do. The barn can get moved over there without knowing exactly how it's gonna be situated and everything else. It could be parked there temporarily, right, Jeff?
Well, we still have a matter of about a $40,000 shortfall. Even if we solve everything else, we have a $40,000 shortfall between the money in hand or committed and what it's going to cost. Where's that $40,000 coming from?
Something we're working on.
So, but I don't know that we're.
Your idea was for the village to make up the difference.
Not necessarily.
30,000 is what you wanted from the village.
Well, yeah,
In addition to
we were
the
looking at the
50,000.
grant, which
In
I
addition
think-
to all the engineering work, which currently is worth about 15,000, plus staff time, legal time,
All the
online
stuff
time.
Amanda's doing.
Well, is there a possibility that simply the $50,000 that you estimated for the cost of simply moving the barn on your own property was maybe skewed?
It was actually a little less than that.
It's 50 if it was on a permanent foundation, it's 35 if it's on a temporary foundation.
So, so it's 30
5.
See how much you've already used.
39,000.
But will it depend on getting those bids back next month, from the movers?
I don't think any of the money that's been spent is towards that same, it's
What
not,
about the, I mean.
that's separate money, that's above and beyond the 50,000 that we've already said to move it, right?
And then we need to, we're worried too about the contents of the barn, because I guess there's some kind of, I learned in the meeting that we no longer own our barn.
Well, I don't think we're gonna have any, whatever we have to do to turn it all over to you, I mean, it's, well, that's not a problem, right, Vic? I mean, we'll figure that out.
If you remember back in December, the board passed a resolution saying that we're prepared to give it to them, and we had a series of conditions, all of which were really operational for purposes of getting it downtown.
So, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry, I don't wanna speak for everyone.
Well, that's how quickly we can solve problems.
Yeah.
We'll give it to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's yours, I
They
mean.
still need to take it off.
Yeah, but.
Like I said, operational.
But there's still a path, I mean, if there's a place to set it temporarily and it's safe to do that, I mean, we could get it over there and then everything else could get sorted out. It doesn't sound like we're gonna, there's just a lot of stuff that we're not gonna be able to figure it all out in the next 3 months to get it properly placed on a brand-new foundation and everything. So it's gonna have to be either set over there temporarily, I mean, because it can be put on a temporary foundation here, or it can be delivered, you know, to the Historic Society site and maybe put on a temporary, I don't know, what do you put it on, something that,
Yeah, at the meeting, we talked about a gravel pad or something like that.
Gravel pad.
You're talking about
yeah,
moving over there disassembled.
disassembled and setting it there. If the fact, if it's felt that this can all come together with fundraising and everything else, and we're not gonna abandon you, right? We're still here. That's not what we're saying here. I mean, hopefully what, stop? Yeah, I don't think that we're gonna abandon you, we're gonna help you, but I don't know that we're in a position to fully take on this project and move it over there. You're gonna have some involvement, so.
That was the point of us creating the term sheets too, that then all sides would understand, and I think there were a lot of players that are new to this, and new to the conversation, new to the village, you know, not permanent with the village, and the trustees, I mean, you guys are very involved, but you're not involved in the day-to-day, so knowing whose barn it is not necessarily what everybody is familiar with. So putting it all out in the term sheet was a way that, you know, and we can craft multiple term sheets and negotiate through that. You're not gonna do that overnight, but at least at the starting point.
I think the meeting also went very well. I walked away thinking this was gonna get done. So just so you know, from the village standpoint, I think that meeting could have been better downtown. So I commend you guys put it together with all parties. So I have the same sentiment that you guys have.
That's wrong. I think that the term of project manager was killer. Well, it doesn't matter.
Well, we're kind of stuck here right now, so I don't know, I would maybe, let's come back to this. I mean, we're gonna have to move the barn, so I think some decisions are gonna have to be made by the Historic Society and the village board here pretty quickly. Otherwise, it's going right over there probably, right? So,
Don't we have to do that?
what's the timeline of the
Next meeting.
next meeting?
15th, yeah.
Yeah.
14th.
I don't, I'm completely confused. My notes, my memory, on Valentine's Day, 2023, the Historical Society came to the meeting and said, we do not want barn disassembled. That's because I brought it up prior to that, so it had to be in January. It is a year ago for it to come up at the February 14th meeting. I said, hey, we're talking about in addition, you gotta, what are we gonna do to protect the barn? Because you gotta have the equipment, blah, 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 okay? And I said, maybe we should take it apart, one board at a time, so it could be reassembled. Because I figured it'd fall apart if they tried to move it. That's where I was coming from. Jeff said, I don't recommend that, you know. Every project has overruns. And what if we can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again, right? okay? So, in our discussions, and after learning what it would cost to move the barn, because we don't want it damaged, we discussed $50,000. Thereafter, now, that was a year ago. This is January 23rd. So there has been a year that has transpired. We said, because the Historical Society said, why don't we move it? If you're gonna move it, why don't we put it over there? We talked about it and we said, well, it's gonna cost us $50,000. So instead of spending $50,000 to do that, we'll give you $50,000. And then we gave them an extra $2,000 for what is now a $15,000 bill. Okay, how did that get out of control? Even SHPO has said our preference would be to leave it on its site. Where's Gene, right? But nobody's paying any attention to that. Okay, fine, whatever, it's not a big deal, so it was moved here, so it's not in its original location. We never said that it was our project. We said, here's the money, if that's what you want to do. And then there were questions. And so Jeff got involved. And $11,000 later, a year later, we're still sitting here. Jeff said in August, the deadline, mid-October, to get everything done on time. Do you remember that? You needed to know by mid-October. It is now the third week of January. There is no way in hell that we will be able to get bids and move this if we don't start this week. Do you agree? So to me, you know, it's yes, no, maybe, okay, this, then that, so on and so forth. There was talk of grants, there was talk of fundraising. I understand at the meeting there was talk about fundraising. I wasn't there, but I was told we can raise money, we can do this. We can do a lot of things. And I think John Marshall is absolutely correct. Don't do that in the middle. We never said we were gonna take full responsibility. Never. We said we would give you money. So, you know, I don't understand the hot, cold, yes, no, how could it be so great? And then a few days later, it's not acceptable.
But Rita, everybody who was there, he thought it was great. He thought it was great. I thought it was great. He thought it was great.
So apparently we have a failure to communicate.
All right, cool, hey, look, but,
All these people, you know, with
so it's it's 9:20? Yeah, go ahead.
My conclusion is, we get the bids, we move the barn from there to over here, because we know right now we can contract for that. We know we have the money. There's no money coming from the other side. Are we gonna loan it to them? Is that come next? Yeah, they've got $30,000. So, and our 50 is 80. Minus $15,000. 13,000, so we pick up $2,000. It's already over budget. So as far as I'm concerned, it gets moved from there to there. And if the decision is there, the desire is there to move it elsewhere.
Are we really moving it there, not there?
On this property.
Oh, okay.
On this property.
No, I thought you had a special place over here.
Well, where the ground is.
Okay, so hold on a second, let's just ask point of clarification. What bids do we have in process right now?
We don't have any.
Okay.
And remember, the board waived the bidding process, so.
Right, that
if
same
proposals-
resolution, we said we were gonna be looking for proposals, but not for formal bidding.
Okay.
And Jeff is planning to do that tomorrow, send those out based on the discussion here, and there will be two options that those proposals will ask for. One is the move there, and the second one is to disassemble and move it and reassemble it downtown next to the farmhouse. So and even if we can't do that now because of all the information that still needs to be processed and the money that still needs to be raised, that information will be helpful later on. So at the next board meeting, you'll have the opportunity, you'll see the bids come back, and I put that in that memo to you, so you pretty much got the basic,
I don't understand why we're getting numbers for December. We're not gonna do that. Why would we get a bid for that? We're gonna move it from there to there because.
I still get the,
Well, here's why, I can answer that real quickly, because Bill had asked the same question, and I asked Jeff, I said, Jeff, is there much of a difference for you folks to include not only the move over there, but the disassembly move there? Is there much of a issue for you, extra cost to do that? And they said no. So that information is gonna be valuable to help the Historical Society and the village and all the actors when eventually that does come to pass and everything's ready to go. That'll be good to know what the cost is from movers to disassemble, reassemble. And that's one of the reasons that Jeff has included two things in that proposal for the move downtown. One is the survey, and the other thing is the architectural information. The architect needs to be commissioned or get a proposal from an architect to do two things. One is to design a foundation, and two, put the puzzle instructions together for disassembling and reassembling.
But there's already, the Historical Society, again, I'm confused. They've got a number from John Marshall. Why would we duplicate that?
A number from John Marshall? I don't understand what you're saying.
No. Somebody told me, this is why I'm confused. Somebody told me that John Marshall gave you numbers.
No,
It was
never did.
50 grand?
Nope, never
Where did
did.
that come from?
I mean, I've had multiple
This
conversations
came
with.
from Jeff and Amanda's list of tasks, and there were costs associated with each task, which add up to $107,000.
If we can award that prior to next meeting, because it's 2 weeks, or is it 3? The proposal, the cost, if we can get something moving, instead of doing what he's gonna be doing tomorrow and waiting for our next meeting for approval, is there a way for us to do it?
Approval of what? I don't understand.
The bid, the proposal, to move the barn.
So are you saying the proposals will come in sometime between now and the next meeting, and you'd like to act on that before the next meeting?
As soon as we get them, and we collectively have communicated, can we do that without meeting? Can we do that?
Well, it depends on how much it is. From what everyone's talked about, it will be over a limit that you couldn't do it without meeting. You'd have to have a meeting to approve it.
Okay. I'm just looking at the days going by.
are we handicapped at any point? Are we handicapped now if we make it at the next meeting?
I think, through the timeline, we're talking about a couple days, because we a special meeting to approve it. But I think by the time you get the bids in, you're talking, maybe Thursday, Friday, the week before the board meeting, so, you're talking.
Well, I imagine we will have special meetings between now and our next meeting anyway, I'm assuming.
Most likely.
And so we could sneak that in and
Sure.
do it. Because I think every day is going to count.
I think getting them out, getting a proposal from, XYZ contractors, we wanna get a few, to truth out the value of the work. You wanna give them, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks to put their number together, so, you're not getting something just kind of off the cuff. So that's where I come up with that timeline, so special meeting might not help us.
And Bobby, I'm not sure with all the other things that have to be done to make the downtown move feasible, extra couple days, weeks ain't gonna help.
It's not gonna happen.
No, it's not gonna happen.
No.
I just don't think, I think the time frame we've got now for the next meeting with those two options, the board can decide then, which mover to choose and where to move it to.
All right, so are we at a point to stop here on this now?
Anybody gets any great revelations. And
All right, I'm gonna stop here. We need to, you have a manager's report?
Yeah. Email me if you have any questions.
All right, then I'd like a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
So,
Moved by trustee Tanucci,
Vic, do we want to also on property or not?
seconded by trustee Borowski. Property too, or no? No.
Well,
Just personnel matters. Tanucci and Borowski.
second,
Yeah, roll call, yeah.
trustee Panucci,
Aye.
trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Trustee Chris Meyer,
Aye.
trustee O'Connor, trustee O'Reilly.
Okay.
I am
This is the
about to
village
lose
hall.
power. I'm going up to my room. I may need to reconnect.
Okay, all right. Good night, thank you. Thanks for staying. Thanks, Amanda. Grab some out of my bag. Oh, you know what I forgot? This is the jump drive for the sheriff. Oh, well, I hacked his, stole his jump drive.
That's not the guy you steal from.
Stole the sheriff's jump drive. Oh, no, I'm going to jail.
There you go, you're in trouble now.
Oh, geez.
I thought you had emailed me, you had sent me, or maybe handed to me, a picture of the barn, and it was part of a story, and the school saying when they were.
Oh, yeah.
That was done in the seventies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it. It's in that book.
Okay, now, I mean, when James.
You're all report, you're still recorded too, so.
School property.
Right.
So, I'm not quite sure what that confused.
You are 100% correct.
Hey, Rick, we're gonna go into executive session here shortly. I don't know, there's somebody here that I think their screen's frozen, right? There you go. Well, just wait a second, we'll roll us into executive session, so. Thanks for hanging up. No, but I'm gonna look her name up. This is Marie. This was the name. I was gonna look it up later.
I mean, 'cause I was watching off of your screen, and it was like, I think a tour of home, but from
Well,
out.
so here, I'm getting abused by Oaken, so. All right, so, I'm gonna flip us into executive session now, and, come on.
And actually, in retrospect, I regret that. Yes.
Am I right? Yeah, that's right, great.
What was it, no one followed? And it was,
Okay, motion to adjourn. Moved by trustee O'Reilly, seconded by trustee Tanucci. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good.